Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Paint with Kooz. I'm Joey Kooz, coming to you from right here at Raise Your Mind Art Studio. And I've just completed another painting, and it's time for some cleanup. So I wanted to go over my process of cleaning up and maintaining my tools or brushes. Um, it's really imperative to take care of your equipment because they'll last a long time. They're not cheap. You know, you make an investment in something, and I mean, these I've had for years and years, and they're still just as good as the day I bought them. Some of the smaller brushes that I beat up on a little bit more wear out, but if you take care of your stuff, they'll last you a good long time. Now I like to paint a lot of watercolor as well, so I get a little spoiled with watercolor. You take the brush, you rinse it in a little water, and cleanup's done. But cleanup for oil paint is a bit of a process. One thing I just wanted to touch on for me, and I started this right from when I was a beginner, and I don't use paint thinner inside my art studio or in my house. I keep it out in the garage, and that's where I go clean all of my brushes. I don't clean with thinner any of my brushes during a painting. And if there's anything that I can suggest to somebody just starting out would be to, you know, as best you can, to invest in enough brushes so that you don't have to, stop and wash. And it's not a time thing for me. It's a health and safety issue with, paint thinner. We think it's odorless and geez, it doesn't smell that bad, so maybe it's not that bad, but it can be, and some people are affected by it, just being in the room with it. But it can have, long-term health implications as well, and I try to avoid my exposure in an unventilated area as much as possible. I really don't suggest at all, bringing paint thinner into your living room and washing brushes and painting, and then, maybe, having family or, even if it's just yourself. But I always just think it's a really good idea. Any class that I ever give, everybody has enough brushes to be able to do a painting without having to wash them with thinner, and it just makes it a lot easier for me. So I have, honestly, to do a painting, probably 1 2 inch brush is enough, maybe two at the most. A couple 1 inch brushes, a couple fan brushes, and it's not like you have to go out and purchase everything all at once, but you know as time progresses, maybe you pick up another fan brush or two, then you have enough to get through a painting without having thinner around. And if you need to thin paint, I'm using some refined linseed oil, kind of at the end for grasses and liner brush work. You can still use liquid white or liquid black if you wanted to use that as an option. But I personally, I like to keep the thinner out of my work area and out of my house because it's not, it is a bit of a volatile liquid, and it vaporizes, it evaporates, and the chemicals go into the air. It's not, it's not the greatest thing to have, you know in your house and in your living environment. So anyway, time to clean up. Why don't we go outside? I'll show you my process, what I do. Very simple, just takes a little bit of time, but sometimes I get a little tired. I paint for a long period of time during the day. By the end of the day, I get a little lazy, I'll admit it, and I'll say, well, I'll clean them in the morning. But the problem is, what happens is, the paint that gets on the way up in the inside sometimes, that never, you can never get that out once it starts to solidify in there, and it just gets gunked up, and it really they'll get hard, and they're just not a pleasure to work with once they start getting gummed up with oil paint and stuff in there. So if I can, again, suggest something is stay on top of cleaning your materials when you're done using them. It will, you'll be much happier. You won't have to be investing and buying brushes all the time. You just take good care of these. They'll last you. Again, this is probably one of the original brushes that I bought when I started painting. And this is in oil paints. This is probably 6 years old. So this is I love this brush. So anyway, let's go outside. I'll show you what I do. All right. Well, it's definitely the garage. And I know maybe not everybody has a garage or something, somewhere outside of their home that they can store their thinners. But if there's anything, in the warmer months, if you can do it outside, as much, as often as you can do it outside of your living area, the better. Because, like I said, it's not, it is odorless, but it is not a harmless material. So I err on the side of caution, and I suggest everybody that I teach or run into, I suggest the same thing. So I put gloves on, not overly cautious, but just to keep it off my skin. So I just use the standard Bob Ross bucket and the beater rack that are the screen that's inside, and Bob Ross odorless paint thinner. And out here, it's well ventilated. And I just rinse my brushes real well, shake off any excess. I did make a homemade little beater rack, which is probably not the best thing to do to beat it and to make it airborne, but it does help me to dry the brushes real quick. Little fan brush, rinse it. It's always good the bigger brushes are harder when you're washing them to wipe them with a paper towel. But I always use a paper towel to wipe my handles. And look, even though I was washing it in the thinner, look how much paint is still on that. And it's still in the brush. Had I just done that and set it aside, this brush would probably not be usable tomorrow. See how much, look, it's a fresh, clean spot, and look at all that color. So you want to make sure, even though you did it once, wipe it out as best you can after doing it in the thinner, and then put it back in the thinner and rinse it against the rack. Do it 3-4 times, because this is an investment. These are your tools that you're going to work with as an artist. Wipe the handle. Make sure there's no paint on them as much as possible. And because the better this feels in your hand, the better your tool is, the better the product will be. So take your time. I know, again, after a long day, cleanup for oil painting is not the greatest chore. It really isn't. But it's a necessary one. So take your time. If you need to take a break after painting, have dinner, whatever, take a little break, have something to drink, take a little rest, but then don't forget them. You'll not be happy with yourself. You'll not be happy with your tools, letting them build up with a lot of paint. Use paper towels once they're rinsed. Make sure there's no more paint coming off of that brush, and you can feel fairly confident that it's clean. All right. Well, I'm going to finish the rest of these up, and I'm going to say goodbye for now, but I did just want to get in being careful with odorless thinner. It is not harmless thinner. It can be, can be a dangerous substance, especially in an unventilated area. So be careful around, maybe any family members or even yourself. Try to have it outside of your living area. That's my suggestion. Again, these are my suggestions, my opinions. They're my opinions, and it doesn't mean it's the only way. It doesn't mean it's the right way. It's just my way, and I just wanted to share them with you. So, hope it was helpful. Hope you enjoyed. Till next time, thanks for watching. Have a good day.